serious, if you could learn the honest truth behind any rumor or mystery from the course of human history, what secret would you like to unravel? I'd like to read the history of the world volumes that were destroyed at the Library of Alexandria. Edit. Thank you guys. My dad is the one responsible for this comment because I asked him some form this when I was a kid. He's been my history teacher throughout life. Oh my god, yes. I'm so curious about that. It's so depressing thinking about how much information was lost in that fire. The one thing that fascinates me is how did wandering affect culture? That is, all our modern culture comes from people with borders. They may not be nation states, but pick any direction and you'll either hit a natural obstacle like a mountain, or land controlled by other people. But there was a time when that wasn't true. For a few thousand years, if you didn't like where you were, you could just pack up, walk a few kilometers, and be the first person ever there. How did that affect their mindset? Did they have a god of new places? Did they have people who were specialized in scouting out potential places to move to? Who the Isdal woman really was? What she was doing? How she ended up dead in such a remote valley? In Bergen, Norway. No one has been able to identify her in 50 years. Edit. What's especially strange about this case is that she had about 8 different aliases which she used all over Europe, and then was found burned alive in the middle of a Norwegian valley. All eyewitness reports from people who crossed paths with her state that she stood out, and always seemed to be on high alert. I'd like to know which people were the pedophiles that were involved with Epstein. The good news is Ghislaine Maxwell, who procured and groomed minors for Epstein and his friends, and was involved in all facets of his disgusting operation, has been arrested. She is expected to rat out. The identity of the Zodiac killer or if the dudes who escaped Alcatraz really survived. Oh, I almost forgot about them. I'd have to go with the Alcatraz escapees. I've always wondered. Kinda hope they made it. Sounded like they were decent people who just made a few mistakes. The Mary Celeste. I believe that's the name. It was a U.S. merchant ship that was found completely abandoned floating in the ocean in the 1800s. I would also like to find out what happened to another ghost ship that was found with everyone frozen. There was a spilled barrel of alcohol in the ship. The lifeboats were missing, and a rope was trailing behind the ship. What happened is that the alcohol started evaporating, making it hard to breathe. So everyone left their stuff and went out on a lifeboat behind the ship to let it air out. Then the rope snapped and the ship went drifting away from the lifeboat. D.B. Cooper. The hijacker that jumped from the jet plane with all that money, and what happened from then till now? He most likely died. They gave the serial number from all the bills given to him and none have been spent. The only ones found wash up on a river. The weather conditions were so bad and it was street night, so the chances are that he died. The details of the Bronze Age collapse. We only know very generally what happened. Read 1177 by Eric Klein for details. But precious little specifics. Who did what and why. Droughts, famines, revolts, piracy, population movement, trade collapse etc. are all involved. Mycenae, Minoans, Troy, Hittites, Ugarites etc. Every city from Greece to the Levant was burned down and every civ collapsed. Egypt, Assyria and Babylonia didn't collapse but were severely weakened for centuries. No idea why, but I'm just so interested in finding Genghis Khan's grave. The brutal extent they went through to keep it secret is truly messed up. I heard an interesting conspiracy theory once. Perhaps Genghis Khan actually had a simple cremation and the legend of his grand burial was used to keep his empire hungry for conquest and glory. Where the cool S originated from and why did it spread to so many places? You should watch the video by Lemino titled The Universal S. Where are the missing Sodder children? What happened at Dyatlov Pass? And does the ivory-billed woodpecker still exist? Read a few books on the Dyatlov Pass incident. Most likely scenario seems to be a common vortex street. They are super rare. but the conditions in the Dyatlov Pass are perfect for it. It would have created infrasound that would have scared and disoriented the hikers enough to flee the tent. Or it could just be aliens. Nasarosa. What happened to Shelley Miscavige? She just went missing. While the Church of Scientology claims that she's working there. I don't believe it. Same people that believe in Xenu and F-King soul catchers. Yeah. She's apparently alive as far as authorities are concerned. But wouldn't signal or admit she's being held captive. This is going to sound like a conspiracy theory. Swiss bank vaults used as collateral by the Nazis. When the Third Reich was defeated and collapsed. The Swiss would have grossly violated their quote-unquote neutrality if they revealed they had the stuff. They couldn't sell it openly. And they weren't exactly factions friendly to the idea of paying for Europe's stolen masterpieces. My argument for the Swiss having them is based on their admittance that they dealt in gold and what would today be considered war profiteering. It is likely, therefore, that the art was indeed destroyed to absolve those who possessed them of guilt and or responsibility. If Caligula made his horse consul or if he was just messing with the senators in Rome. On a more serious note, the life of Jesus. And also, if Ptolemy was Alexander's illegitimate half-brother. Because that would mean that Cleopatra would be related to Alexander. Edit. The Cleopatra in Egypt around 300 years later. Alexander's full sister was also named Cleopatra. What is inside the Vatican secret archives? Probably like 99% boring written accounts and 1% juicy church scandals. Literally every single Unsolved Mysteries episode. That man's face gave me nightmares as a kid. I felt like he had the answers but just wanted to scare me. Where Cleopatra's tomb is located. Genghis Khan's too. It kills me that I will die without knowing the deep dark shitty rich and powerful people, governments, and companies have done. We only hear about what they've gotten caught doing and there has to be so much more. And what about older wealth before there was any insight into this? What did the Rockefellers do abroad on private islands before the Epsteins existed? Also, all the technology that the Gates, Musk, and Bezos crowd get to see deep in the R&D departments. It isn't actually a rumor or mystery, but I'd like to learn the history behind the legend of Excalibur. Stonehenge. There are many theories for why it could have been built, but nothing solid. Even more unknown is how in the world those monoliths were moved and stacked. Stonehenge is so cool. I got to see it in 2012. And it was incredible up close. You never said just one. I would probably just go with Amelia Earhart. Or, if this is allowed, discovering the entire ocean. As like 90% of it is unexplored. So if I could have a diagram of everything inside that would be great. Haha. Fair enough. There are so many that I want to learn about. 2. Earhart is a good one. Who was behind Cicada 3301 and what the actual purpose of it was? It just disappeared into thin air. I think it's some kind of spook op. CIA. FSB. MI6. Doesn't really matter. I think they were sending out Cicada 3301 to find potential recruits for spy networks or hacking. Why else would they keep it all so secret? Why else wouldn't we have ever heard from any of the winners? Why all the convoluted puzzles? Would having the Library of Alexandria live on actually have progressed civilization as much as we speculate it would? I adore reading about it as much as it infuriates me thinking of how much we probably lost. Probably not. The library had burned down several times and, by the time of its final destruction, had been neglected for centuries and was a shadow of what it was in its golden era. The death of Marilyn Monroe. Was she killed? Were the Kennedys behind it? Was it drugs? Not necessarily a conspiracy theorist. But it would be really interesting to find out the truth. She was definitely gone before her time. Dorothy Kilgallen. The only reporter who was able to interview Jack Ruby and was supposedly close to a big break in the JFK assassination. Also died of an overdose of alcohol and barbiturates in 1965 under suspicious circumstances. I would go back and see how exaggerated are the religious books of all the Abrahamic religions. I would like to see what religious figures were really like and how everybody treated them. Who killed John Bennett Ramsey? I was going to post this. I am convinced that something happened to make her brother snap and kill her. But how has this been unsolved for so long? This is the case that truly got me interested in true crime, and I would love for there to be clear closure on the case. Edit. Edited to sound less like I'm victim blaming. I am in no way blaming John Bennett for her death. What really happened in Epstein's cell and who was involved? Hopefully Maxwell will spill her gut about the nasty things that have happened. Not literally though. Someone will finish her off before she gets the chance. Extraterrestrial intelligence. Do they exist? Have they ever been here? How close is the nearest planet with intelligent life? Is faster than light travel possible through the distortion of space or some other means? Intelligent life has to exist out there somewhere. Space is just so big. We can't be the only planets to have intelligent life. We just can't be. I can't believe it. The idea that we are totally alone in the infinite space of, well, space, just makes me feel so insignificant and lonely. What happened to Madeleine McCann? There's so many opinions and speculations. A pedophile likely killed her. It was all on German news the last weeks. I would want to know the scientific advancements and knowledge lost with the Aztecs and other advanced Native American civilizations. Also, a true depiction of their cities I'm sure would be incredible too. As a Mexican I can tell you, Aztecs were awesome, but the real deal were the Mayans. This is going to be f***ing depressing. My dad passed away last Wednesday. I'm extremely broken up over it. We were tremendously close throughout all of my childhood. But we had a falling out a few years ago that was largely my fault. I haven't talked to him in a year. The only thing I would want to know. Did he die thinking I hated him? Did he die hating me? I love him so f***ing much. Even though we had our differences, he is still the greatest man I will ever have known. I need to know. Did he know that? Was Kennedy really assassinated by the CIA? I heard a theory. And it makes sense to me. That the actual fatal shot was an accidental discharge from one of the Secret Service guys who jumped when they heard a shot. It makes sense as a cause of death, and it also makes sense as something that might get covered up. I just need to know why NTF Easter Island even exists. Like y'all were set up on an island with basically no natural resources and y'all just decided to make these huge ass heads? Like why? They've excavated beneath some of the heads and found entire bodies. Super weird. Edit. Remove the word recently. Did Coca-Cola really introduce and cancel New Coke just to boost sales of Coke Classic? The conspiracy theory I've seen about that was that New Coke was used as a palate cleanser in America to cover the switch from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup as the main sweetener. Dyatlov Pass incident. 9 Russian hikers died in uncertain circumstances in 1959 and it still hasn't been solved. During the night, something caused them to tear their way out of their tents and flee the campsite. All while inadequately dressed for the heavy snowfall and sub-zero temperatures. Double quote. Why did they leave? What caused them to run? Did something scare them? Were they scared for their lives? So many questions. Very strange mystery and quite disturbing as well. Especially with some of the conspiracies. I want to know more about the British Columbia murders from 2019. 2 teenagers killed 3 people and caused a massive manhunt spanning 3 weeks and 3,000 kilometers before killing themselves. I think I heard they made a confessional tape, but I doubt it will ever be published. What on earth was going on in their minds? They were idiot kids who marginally f***ed up and then went on the run before realizing their lives were basically over. I followed the story and once I got what was going on I tried to feel bad for them. But they f***ing murdered people. Where was Jesus from the ages of 12-30 when he is not mentioned in the Bible? Probably living a boring normal life, apprentice to a carpenter. How to make Damascus steel. The real stuff that has been completely lost to history. Not the stuff that just goes by its name today. It'd be nice to finally know. Not just assume because we like how the modern stuff looks. Honestly, I'd like to simply know the identity of the man who stood up to a goddamn column of tanks during the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989. Why did the kamikaze pilots wear helmets? I've heard a couple times that it was in case their plane didn't explode on impact or any other reason for surviving. They were less likely to die and could get out to kill more Gaijin. Never really looked into if it's true, but makes sense. I truly want to see what happened to Amelia Earhart that long century ago. What exactly happened? How she died? And how close we were to finding her remains. Did she die in the crash? Did she survive and live on an island until her death or drown thereafter? How long was she alive? Was she somehow rescued and hid her identity afterward for whatever reason, despite that likely not being the case and is really just a lame conspiracy theory? What the hell happened to Noonan? There's a few for me. Maura Murray. Where did she go and what happened? I think it's probably that she ran into the forest and died of exposure or succumbed to the elements, but her behavior before she disappeared is bizarre. I would like Phil Lisk to be solved and to know his identity. Where are the Sodder children? What happened to them? Eater. Thought of another one. Lol. What happened to Asher Degree? Was she loud out of her home or was she coerced? Roanoke. They were taken by the Croton Indians south from Roanoke Island, Mantia, to the bottom of the Barrier Island, Hatteras. There are archaeological artifacts and DNA evidence that shows white Europeans were living amongst those people. And Chief Wanchese, of Hatteras, was known as a peaceful warrior who likely chose to shelter and protect the settlers. Edit. The DNA evidence mentioned in this comment isn't verified. Hopefully soon though. What happens when we die? The people we love miss us. I think it would be pretty cool to learn if Hitler actually killed himself or escaped to somewhere else. It would be that or what happened to Johnny Gorsh. I think it would be interesting to learn what happened to him. What's in the Vatican? Let's raid the Vatican September 2020. I would like to find out what was before the Big Bang. I wonder if it's the rubber band hypothesis, the universe stretches out to the point of breaking then collapses and the matter is condensed so tightly it explodes. Or if it's the giant black hole one where it's eaten, collapses, then explodes outward. What the hell happened with the Yuba County 5? It's also known as the American Dyatlov Pass BTW. But yeah. So many weird things happened with that are completely unsolved. The Kennedy assassination. It's driven me nuts ever since I learned about it. There are just so many possibilities. The location of the lost 1715 Spanish treasure fleet. I'd use the money to find more lost sea treasures. That or if the Holy Grail ever existed. Oak Island mystery. There is whole TV show evolving around it on History Channel and mystery if there is buried treasure on it or not. What exactly is causing those people to disappear in national parks, etc.? What's in Antarctica? Is Megalodon still alive deep down in the unexplored part of the ocean? What really happened to dinosaurs? Was COVID an experiment gone wrong or something released on purpose? For what it's worth, I just love hearing people rationalize their beliefs and it's intriguing to me to hear different point of views. Reading through this thread is really interesting. Growing up I got the impression that everything was solved or likely solved. And yet there are all these mysteries that no one knows the answers to. Things like these need to be talked about more. They're so fun to think about. Quite a few things. Who killed John Bennett? What happened to Malaysian Flight 370? What really happened to Jimmy Hoffa? What happened to Amelia Earhart? Do aliens exist? Who really ordered the hit on Malcolm X? Who actually killed Biggie and Tupac? And who is Becky with the good hair? What in the actual FCK was going on in the Winchester house? The Max Headroom thing for sure. I believe there was a thread here on Reddit where some guy said he knew the people behind it, but it turned out he was mistaken. Dead serious about this. But it's more personal than global. I would absolutely love to know where the hell the lids from Tupperware go. Over the years. We have disposed of dozens of perfectly good containers because the lids simply vanish. Tokyo Airport. 1956. A man came into the airport with a weird looking passport and in it said that he was from the United Kingdom of Tord, which he claimed was located at the border of France and Spain, which is today's Andorra. But this man claims it's the United Kingdom of Tord. The police take him away to a nearby hotel to guard him. They were awake all night in front of his room and went in morning to go check on the man and he was nowhere to be seen. And the scariest part, all his documents also vanished. Might not seem that scary, but they were in a completely different place. I want to know where he came from and where he went. There was a murder and sexual assault of a young girl near my hometown before I was born. Christine Jessup. An innocent man. Her neighbor Guy Paul Moran was convicted of the crime basically because he was weird and the cops fixated on him. He was eventually exonerated, but her killer was never found. This was in Ontario, Canada. The truth about Diana's death. Am I really the last idiot standing? Genuinely believing that she died because she was being driven by a speed racing drunk driver whilst not wearing a seatbelt? I want to know how Neanderthals, which are now believed to be more artistic and somewhat slightly more intelligent than us, and Denisovans, the short and stacked cousins of ours who were once pervasive in Asia, went extinct while we survived. Who killed Missy Bevers? It is the strangest case and seems like it should be solvable. But here we are years later with no arrest. My husband and I can't even agree on whether the person on video is a man or woman. The identities of anyone and everyone involved in Epstein's suicide. If they took part. If they knew it was happening. Any ties to it. Surprised no one has said it yet, but the Hinterkaifeck murders. Someone murdered a whole family with an axe in a small German town in 1922. Supposedly, the maid quit because she kept feeling uneasy at the house. Her replacement arrived just a few hours before the murders took place. The perpetrator also took care of the animals for several days after. Who actually put Bella in the witch elm and why? What mythological creatures did actually exist at some point in history, or even possibly today? So like, how do you know there's no giant sea monsters floating around in the huge expanse of ocean that we have not explored? Close bracket. Other people already mentioned these. But I also want to know what happened to John Bennett Ramsey and on the Dyatlov Pass.